Welcome back. And if you haven't seen Silo Season 3, Episode 3, titled A Dark Web yet, then please hit pause, turn back, and, come back and see me after you watch the episode because it was a really good episode. It was a world builder. And that is basically a warning to let you know that we're going to have spoilers in this episode. So this is your warning to turn back now. And with that being said, did you guys notice this week that Apple TV really looked at us and said, you know what? Psychological warfare isn't enough. So to spice things up a little bit, let's throw in a rat poison gas attack in the mine. And all just to basically try to kill one person that you're not even sure is down there. But I guess genocide is okay 352 years after the year 2049. But one of the wildest moments in the episode wasn't when Juliette, who was also in the mines, almost died, or when they found Orla's corpse also in the mines, and I'm sure she didn't die there, and we'll talk about that in a second. That biggest moment was that tiny little throwaway line that was made by the algorithm. And I think with that line, we have to start thinking about how can I say a microscopic detail that may be floating in the air in the silo. And it very well could be sampling everybody to a degree in real time. And this kind of leans into the theory that the 2049 apocalypse was actually caused by a rogue digital attack. So obviously we're not looking at this typical political rebellion, and I don't think we ever were. And now I think we're looking more towards a technology of sorts type of horror story. Not literally, but figuratively. So now that that's been said, let's go ahead and talk about one of our vital points in this episode, and that is Juliette basically starting to take matters into her own hands. It seems like she's done with the whole memory pill thing. I'm glad they didn't stretch this out through the season. And we all knew that, she was going to start spitting those things out and starting to regain parts of her memory. And while we didn't see a lot of that in this episode with her regaining her memory, she definitely took the horse by the reins and decided to go out on her own into the silo and try to figure things out, and all in the name of looking for Lukas Kyle. And we see while she's out on her search for Lukas that one of her first stops is by Sheriff Billings' house. And Juliette's intuition quickly confirms that she could pretty much figure out that she's with the outsiders as well. And I guess it's not a big secret when she's walking around with her wrist taped up talking about she fell. And, maybe she's going to have to come up with a better story than that, or she's going to have to take that wrist gauze off to make it a more believable story. But I just fell, it's not even fooling a person with amnesia, so it's not going to fool anybody else. And all of this basically leads into her taking a trip down to the mines. And of course, this alarms Camille, and it sends her into this absolute panic. And she runs and tells the algorithm everything, and tells the algorithm that Juliette's looking for Lukas and where she's looking and how she's doing it. And this is all because she's terrified that if Lukas has been down in the mines, one, what did he find? Or did he just happen to find a way to a different silo, or to make contact with a different silo, which we learned from the algorithm is a big freaking no-no. And if you do that, it's going to trigger some bad things to happen, and everybody's going to die, maybe in both silos. So this decision is what forces Camille, or it didn't really force her, it leads her to send the raiders down into the mines with their rat poison gas to smoke everybody out. And hey, if we lose a couple of people, it's all good as long as we get Lukas Kyle. And that's if he's down there, because while we did see that he was down there, they didn't know that. Meanwhile, back in the 2049 timeline, we spent a lot of time with Helen and Daniel in this episode, basically in their search to uncover the truth about the mission that Charlotte had been on, and they're just trying to track down the truth about that any way that they can. So in their investigation, they come across this underworld dark web hacker named Steve. And the reason they come across Steve is because he claims to have a recording of the flight mission that Charlotte was on, or at least parts of it, because we learned that only 5 minutes made it online and all of it was basically immediately taken down. So he went analog and recorded it on a cassette. And I'm not sure if you guys saw it or not, on his computer screen when whoever he was playing chess with asked him if he was being tracked. And then he swung over to his other computer and moved his chess piece right next to the Black King. I'm pretty sure that was a signal to let them know that I am being tracked. And I'm pretty sure scanning Daniel's badge probably didn't do him any favors. That probably led whoever right to him. But with all of that said, they listen to the tape, they leave, they decide to go back, and by the time they circle back, Steve's place is ransacked. And it makes me wonder, did Steve do this to kind of throw them off his scent? because we do know he was asked if he was being tracked. So maybe he just did this so he could get away and go to wherever his next dark lair is. Or maybe it's the government right on Daniel's heels and, cleaning up their mess and trying to erase this entire mission from anybody's memory or knowledge. Now, here's why all of that kind of shifts our active storylines that we have. Because up until now, Camille has basically been using Juliette as a political asset. But as we see by the end of this episode, it seems Camille is convinced through a conversation or a debate with the algorithm that the best thing is to go ahead and get rid of Juliette. Now, if she's trying to clean up her voice because the algorithm can sense some things, we don't know. But I highly doubt she goes through with this. But hey, tell the algorithm what it wants to hear, at least for now. And the reason I make that statement about Camille's voice, because it seems the algorithm knows a little bit more about her than it has let on. Because as it told her in this episode, it chose her not because of all her fine qualities. The main reason that the algorithm chose Camille to be the head of IT is because she's a liar. And it saw how she handled the rebellion and the thing with her husband and how she basically maneuvered that situation and basically lied to everybody to get the ultimate result that she wanted. And it admired her for that. So it thought that she would be a great head of IT. And this basically puts her at this crossroads now where she has to decide if she is going to truly attempt to murder an amnesiac, all to save the silo from the vitamin D plus and having everybody's minds wiped. Or she's going to have to try to find a way, which is to use her skills of lying to deceive this 352-year-old algorithm that probably has seen a little bit of everything at this point. But what else can she do to try to regain control of her life and this situation? But let's go ahead and put this episode under a microscope for a second, because the writers left a few nuggets in there for us to pick up on, and I think we should talk about it. Now, you guys remember when Camille was arguing or debating with the algorithm, and it basically cuts her off mid-sentence and tells her that she's lying. And the reason it knows that she's lying is based off her body motions and her cortisol levels. Now, think about that for a sec. Cortisol levels, I don't know about that. Now, we know the standard hidden microphone can pick up voice tension and hesitation, and it could probably pick up breathing patterns as well. But cortisol is a biological stress hormone. So how is the algorithm able to test that? I would even understand it if it had a camera and maybe it's further analyzing her off her body movements, the way she's looking or whatever the case may be. But cortisol levels, that's next level. Because if the algorithm in the vault is reading her cortisol levels, it means that she isn't just being listened to in the room. It means that while she's in this room, she's also being medically sampled. And it seems that every time she speaks, a sample is coming out of her mouth. And this implies that there may be something in the air. And just to touch on the books just a little bit, this could be that nanotechnology, and that's all I'll say about the books part of it. But if this nanotechnology is in the air, it's basically sampling everybody potentially that's in the silo, but we know for a fact it's sampling Camille right there in the vault. And now it makes you think back to those exercises where Dr. Kornikovich was teaching Charlotte those deep breath exercises back in the 2049 storyline. And it seems to be those same ones that Camille was forcing Juliette to do earlier in the season. So now it makes me look at that differently, is that maybe this wasn't some type of calming exercise. Maybe this was a test, quite literally, to see what they could get from their sample, their living sample. And that's just my theory on that. But drop down in the comments and tell me, did you guys catch that cortisol comment, or were you guys kind of distracted by Robert Sims actually showing some real human emotions for once? And I guess it's about time, but it's a little misplaced and a little bit too late. But drop your thoughts down below and let me know what you think about all of that. And now, speaking of Sims, let's talk about some of our characters a little bit, because we saw in this episode that he has feelings and emotions. And for the past 3 seasons, or the past 2 seasons and some change, it didn't seem that he was very attached to his emotions. He almost seemed more like a homicidal robot. And what's crazy about his character change is the things that caused it were basically his wife becoming the head of IT, the job that he always wanted, his son basically being dependent upon him now, and being afraid of Juliette, of course. And also Juliette telling him that basically she doesn't remember who her dad is because she has amnesia. And this breaks him all of a sudden. And now he's terrified that his son will grow up without memories of him. And I think this could be the turning point in his story to where he may actually start trying to, or even go as far as joining the rebellion. And it just makes me wonder what all this is going to mean for Camille, because she's already in an active crisis trying to manage this Juliette vitamin D plus situation. So she has enough on her plate as it is. And now her husband is, I guess, a human now and displaying some real emotion. So this is probably all new to her. But I do need to hit the brakes for a second because I forgot to point out one thing earlier, and I kind of want to roast Daniel Keene. I want to roast him because of his social survival skills in the 2049 storyline, because I'm sure you guys will agree with me that I don't know how this guy survived the apocalypse because his survival skills are an absolute joke. He's a brand new senator, but somewhat high level because of things that he did in New Orleans. And he's investigating pretty much on his own and with the help of Helen, this deeply embedded, probably highly lethal shadow government conspiracy. And he's being careful while he's doing all of that. But he lets his guard down and walks into this sketchy, dim lit back garage looking area that is basically a secret lair for somebody on the dark web. And his grand plan, because he didn't have to do it, he could have just let Helen go in by herself. And his grand plan to get this audio tape or whatever he thought it was to hand over his official government ID, which I am almost certain at minimum triggered the location to where this hacker was, because we know Steve was being tracked. Not to mention, even though all of this may not work out for Steve in the long run, you still gave him some highly classified access to the government. I just don't think Daniel's the sharpest knife in the book. He just handed over his ID and all his credentials, all to, and I get it, you want to save your sister, you want her to get her memories back, you want to see what this mission was that she was on, clearly a front for something more dangerous or highly secret. I just think it's a miracle that Daniel could be investigating all of these things and, one, think that he's smart enough not to get caught, and two, that he was smart enough to survive long enough to even build the silos and maybe even live long enough to be inside the silos, because I'm pretty sure Daniel is probably still alive. And yes, that would probably make him about 400 years old. But I'm pretty sure Daniel is still alive. Or maybe he is just present in some other type of way, because I still think that that is his voice behind the algorithm. And I'm starting to lean more into that theory. It could definitely be somebody else. It could be Senator Thurman. But I think it's Daniel. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that Daniel's behind everything. I just think he's the voice of the algorithm. Now, before we get out of here, let's go ahead and talk about where we think next week will go in episode 4. Because we are quickly approaching our mid-season point, and the dominoes are slowly but surely starting to fall in place. Now, I think we could just start with Camille's impossible choice that she has, because she's going to have to try to decide if she's going to follow through with this plan to attempt to take out Juliette. But I think this is where her survival playbook will kick in, and she will use the very skill that that algorithm complimented her on and basically hire her for, to somewhat pull the ultimate scam against the algorithm. Because we all know that she isn't going to pull the plug and murder Juliette. At least we think we know that. Maybe she'll try to go through with it and she won't be there. But I don't think Camille's even going to go through with this plan, at least not the way the algorithm wants her to. I think that there is a chance that Camille could pull the fake death thing and have Robert help her, because we've seen photos of Robert and Juliette together down in the mechanical. That tells me at some point that Robert Sims and Juliette are going to have a meeting of the minds and at least see eye to eye, even in the short term. Now, the positive side to this plan, at least for Camille, is she'll get to pacify the residents of the silos. She'll look like a hero of sorts to the algorithm. Oh, you listened to me. You did exactly what I say. You're the best. And Juliette will obviously be painted as a martyr in this situation. And everything will probably go good for a little while. And then that red line, blue line thing will separate. And then, the algorithm won't feel the need to use the safeguard or use the vitamin D plus. Now, we also saw that Lukas Kyle eventually got rescued by the outsiders that are headed up by Patrick Kennedy. And I'm almost certain that all of these people are going to start to cross paths at some point. Lukas Kyle is probably going to be one of the biggest keys to Juliette regaining a lot of her memories. And I think this is all going to be some type of build to eventually make contact with another silo, because they laid it out there for us and told us that there's potential that they could go make contact with another silo if they dug far enough. And all these tunnels go different directions. They obviously get close to the other silos, because this definitely alarmed the algorithm. It was very, very pissed off when Camille told him that Lukas Kyle could be trying to make contact with a silo. It immediately threatened to kill everybody. So that should tell us that it is very, very possible for them to get in contact with another silo if they actually try it harder. Meanwhile, back in 2049, I'm sure we're going to spend more time with Daniel, Keene, and Helen as they continue to try to uncover the secrets behind Charlotte's mission. Now, whoever ransacked Steve's place is potentially in possession of some encrypted information because we know Daniel gave him his badge and it unlocked his access. But there's also a more likely chance that the government are the ones who ransacked Steve's apartment. They have the leaked audio file now, and they're probably going to destroy that at some point. Or maybe they'll eventually bring Daniel in on this and he'll be in the know, because we know he's going to become in the know at some point because he's going to help with this silo plan. He's going to have to at least know what the threat is in certain parts of this mission. So I do think he will discover certain things. And I'm also sure there are going to be some things held back from him as well. But we've heard questions come up about the DC bombing and was it real or was it just all made up so that the United States had a reason to go attack Iran in this story. So this will be interesting to see how this all plays out and if this will lead him to go on the run or whatever happens. I don't think it will. I do think we're going to see some more layers to this story uncovered because we still haven't really seen who the founders are yet. The story's going to come together more as we go deeper into the season. And I think that we're right around the corner from finding out some real details, especially as we approach the mid-season. And lastly, we cannot forget about Lukas Kyle because he did not just stumble upon Juliette down there in the toxic smoke. He's clearly been mapping out these tunnels and he knows his way around really well. And it also kind of makes me think that he's been keeping an eye on her as well. Because how did he find her so quickly? Or how did he just happen to be the one that found her? Now, I do think one thing that the algorithm isn't telling Camille is that the safeguard can be averted if you damage the pipe or cut it off in some type of way. So there's nothing saying that Lukas isn't looking for a way to stop the safeguard as well, because he also knows about that. Because we saw when he whispered in Bernard's ear about the safeguard. So yes, he may have been trying to contact another silo, but he also may have been trying to stop the safeguard. And ultimately, whenever Juliette does wake up from her nap, and we will find her probably with the outsiders or somewhere down in mechanical more than likely. We'll start to peel back more layers of this amnesia. She'll probably start to get more of her memories back. And this will probably be the end of all of the amnesia. And she'll more than likely start becoming more of her real self as she gains more memories and as the pills, the vitamin D plus wear out of her system. So the board is setting up pretty nice for the mid-season. And I want to leave you with this highly debatable question. Do you think Camille has the tactical genius to lie to the algorithm? I think we saw her display a little bit of that in this episode when she kind of straightened herself up and gained her composure and then told the algorithm that she would kill Juliette. I think that was her demonstrating in that moment that she can lie to this computer too. But obviously if she gets found out, then the algorithm would just find another replacement for her. So with all that being said, you guys let me know down in the comments what you think about that either way. And let me know what you thought about this episode. I thought it was a pretty good episode. I'm looking forward to episode 4 and everything to come after that. So with all that being said, I want to say thank you for coming. Please don't forget to hit a like and subscribe button on your way out today. And I appreciate you for stopping by today. And if you like more videos like this, please don't hesitate to let me know down in the comments. And I will see you all in the next one. Thank you again.